Hey folks, welcome back to the Engineered Angler. Today I'm messing around with an alternative power source for my trolling motor. And you guys know that pretty recently I replaced my two lead acid batteries out of the bow of my Flycraft 18 flats boat with two 100 amp hour 12 volt lithium batteries. And they have been fantastic. They got a ton of power. I can fish all day, actually multiple days with them. But that's not the only boat and the only need that I have for a power source. I've got alumina down on the dock, and I got a small sailboat that I keep in a marina a few miles from here. The thing is that I would like to have lithium on everything. The other thing is that lithium isn't cheap, and while it's cost effective because they last a long time, it's expensive to get into them. So I got this. Let me show you what it is. Check that out. This is a watertight case housing 100 amp hours at 25.6 volts. So this is a watertight, self-contained power source. And I've been looking for something like this for a while. I've actually contacted like 3 or 4 other companies and nobody had anything but just standard lithium batteries. This is by a company called RePowerflow, and they also have a unit that's also just 12 volts. It's 100 amp hours, comes in a slightly smaller box, but also comes with its own charger. And inside this heavy-duty tactical kind of case, you have 8 Class A lithium cells that are wired in series and can put out up to 100 amps. Now, this unit is not light. It weighs probably, well, I think about 45 pounds. But you know what? Before we open it, let's go ahead and weigh it. I connected it to my shop hoist and put a crane scale in line. It looks like we're right at 48, let's call that 48 pounds. And this is actually one of my favorite features of the whole thing. It comes with its own charger. This is a 24 volt charger. This is a substantial charger. It's not a trickle charger. Let's open up this case and see what's inside. To open the box, you gotta undo these pretty robust latches, and they have like a little thumb lock you push down on, and then you can lift the latches. To me, this was the most impressive part. This is a fiberglass printed circuit board. The circuit board actually makes all the series connections for all the lithium cells. If you didn't have this, you would actually have small connectors in between each of the series connections. On the side of the box, you've got traditional lug connectors, like a standard battery connection with a lug bolt that you can put a lug-ended cable on. And down here you have outputs. These are 2-pin aviation type connectors, but lots of marine gear comes with this kind of connector because you can screw them on and they're watertight. Your radio might have a power connector that looks like this. Your fish finder, depth sounder might have a power connector that looks like this. But the box comes with the appropriate connectors for these two, so you can actually connect it to whatever item you want to power up. So you've got the male connector that goes on here and screws on, and the female connector that also goes on to the male side on this one and also screws on and is watertight. And that's really handy that they provide those, because if you're going to run anything like a little camping refrigerator or something, this is the perfect thing to connect them with. It also comes with a little USB port so you can power fans or just charge up your phone or laptop. And over here you have your traditional lighter style socket, and also at 24 volts with this box. And to monitor everything on the box, you have a little monitoring screen here that tells you the state of charge. It tells you the voltage on the cells, which is 25.7, which is correct. And it tells you the temperature of the batteries right now. They're 29.9 C. And it also tells you the amperage flow, which is 0 right now, which we've got to correct because we need to charge this thing up. So if you've never used these are super handy, easy to use, easy to connect onto any kind of cable that you got. It makes for easy field connections. And this box has 2 outputs. One is a 50 amp and the other one's a 100 amp output. And the 50 amp output is also used for the charger. And now we can take a look and see if it's charging, and it's showing that it's charging at about 19.5 amps. So that should make for a pretty quick charge, although it's only at 6%, so it might take a while. But you can also monitor the battery pack with Bluetooth using their app, and you just scan a little QR code and upload it. Let me show you what it looks like. All right, so here's what the little dashboard looks like. So you got your charge level, which is at 10% right now. You got total voltage over here, and then the current that it's charging at. Over here you have the average voltage on the cells, which is nice to look at. Make sure you don't have like some whacked out number on the average. This is really handy, but I think I'll probably just use the little screen on the side. It's just as good. So while I bought this thing really to power that 24 volt Minn Kota trolling motor on my boat, I also want a little more versatility. I'd like to get 12 volts out of this thing, and it's not too hard to do. All I did was buy this step down converter that takes the voltage from 24 to 12 volts, and it's really easy to hook up. It's just 24 in, 12 out. I can either mount it on the box or just leave it loose and have quick connectors on here. So I bought some of the Anderson connectors that the box already has, so I can easily connect some nice 6-gauge wire on this, connect directly to the outside of the box, and go with pigtails with eye connectors on the other side, or maybe even do lug connectors on the other end on my boat. This way everything is super easy. I just drop this in to the forward compartment of my boat, clip in my Anderson connectors, and I'm ready to rock for days with this. Because I already have 100 amp hours of lithium power on that boat, I'll be doubling it with this. So that means I can run through all the backcountry creeks I want to, practically at full power, fighting the currents all I want. And if my battery runs a little low, I know I've got plenty to get back on. And with the 12 volt converter, I can carry it down to the dock, drop it into my little aluminum conversion boat, and run on that lake for days and not have to worry that it gets rained on or splashed with salt water. I can always hose it down. This thing is watertight. Obviously you can't submerge it, but it's waterproof enough that it can get splashed, it can get sprayed, and you don't have to worry that it's going to get damaged. So while it's charging, let's go ahead and make up some connectors for the converter and for a direct connection from the box to my trolling motor. So the first step is to extend the input wires. I'm using a piece of 8-gauge wire that already has a ring terminal on it. I'll do that on the negative one too. Right, and then to keep this in its place, I'm just going to Velcro it down. This is the input end. It goes onto these lugs, and then these will go to the boat. All right, I've got some of this wire protective sheath that's meant to protect wires from chafe and from exposure to UV. I saved it from some other project. I'll put a tie wrap on each end, and that'll give us a nice protection and a nice finish. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and connect to the power pack and see if we've got 12 volts coming out of this end of the converter. And we're showing 12.27. All right, so we're good to go. And this converter has a maximum output of 40 amps, which is plenty for that little motor. Okay, so here on my Flycraft, the power source for my bow trolling motor is down in this compartment. A couple of 100 amp hour lithium batteries down there. And over here in the corner, there's a breaker. And that's what I'm going to hook into. So to get into that compartment, I'm going to run these wires through my little port here. So right here is my breaker. I'm going to run these wires over, and that's how long it needs to be. All right, so now I can just reach back about 18 inches, give myself a little extra wire. All right, I've got the length cut off the big piece, and what I've got to do now is fit the Anderson connector on here. And the Anderson connector is marked plus and minus right on the housing, which makes it easy. You don't have to worry about keeping track of where you put the wire. So I'm just going to put the little inside insert that goes inside the actual case. And I'm going to use the big crimpers for this one. And that makes for a nice solid crimp. And then you just insert these fasteners right into the back, making sure you put it in the right side. And you push it through till it clicks. And that's what it looks like on the inside. And you do the same with the negative. Just got to do the connections on the other end. And I'm going to be putting on these lug ends. And you got to be sure you got the right connector for the gauge wire you have. This is 6 gauge. And of course it's tinned marine grade wire. And that's why it's so shiny. And give it a good crimp. All right, that's got a good crimp. I'll do the negative one, and then we'll move on to connecting it to the boat. And that's what a good crimp looks like. And once I seal it with the marine shrink tube, that should last forever. So what I'll do is I'll go ahead and remove this. This is the feed from my battery bank, and I'll connect the lug connector here, and then I'll connect at the negative output on my bank. This way I won't have any power coming from my battery bank. I'll only have power coming from the power box. Let's give this thing a try. All we got to do is connect the Anderson connector, and we got all our LEDs running, and all we got to do is turn the motor on, and no problems. All right, now I've got about 2 weeks worth of power on this thing. All right, I'm going to go ahead and get this out of here and take it down to the dock, and we'll try it out on the little lake boat. All right, I've got one lead battery on this one because my Genius 2X2 here crapped out on me, and it only charges on one bank and not as lithium, so I have to have a lead acid in here. So what I plan to do is just disconnect this battery and connect my power box wires directly to these wires and not have the battery in circuit at all. All right, now I can just take this and drop it down in the cockpit, and if it rains, who cares? It's sealed. Let's go ahead and put the trolling motors in the water and see what happens. All right, let's back on out of here. Let's go ahead and drop the bow motor in. Next week, we're going to be making a lure, a topwater lure, actually a really popular style of topwater lure. So tune in to check that out. And if you're interested in some of the other lithium batteries that I've used on boats, go ahead and click on this video right here. I'll see you guys next time.